Hello, lawn mowing people. What I'm going to talk about today is about how do you deal with difficult lawn mowing customers. Now, I've been mowing lawns for a while, and over the last 30 years or so, I've met quite a few of them. And there are ways that you can effectively deal with difficult customers, but they take time. They've got to be implemented, right? They take time to learn. So I'm going to tell you a bit about them now. Now, I'm sure that if you're mowing lawns and you're out there every day mowing lawns, you come across customers that you find a little bit difficult, and we all do. There's basically four different kinds of difficult customers. Now, the first one is what I call the complainer. What the complainer does is they'll complain about everything. They'll complain about the news, they'll complain about the weather, they'll complain about the government, but they'll never vote. They'll complain about absolutely everything. And you can usually spot them coming because when you arrive at the lawn to do the original quote, what they say to you is they say, the last lawn my guy was doing a terrible job. And then they'll go and start complaining about the last lawn my guy. And this is how you know that you're dealing with a complaint. So one thing that you can do is if you haven't got a lot of work and you're looking for work, then maybe you should take them on. But if you are running full, then it's probably not worth doing. Now, the next one that we come across is the perfectionist. Now, the perfectionist isn't too bad. What they want is they want a nice job, and they want a job that they're going to be happy with. And they may be a bit fussy. They may say they want this and that done. The idea is when you do the quote, you want to go around first with them and you see what they want, get them to tell you what they want. And then that way you can do the job that you know is going to make them happy. You just need to pay attention the first time you go around the lawn with these perfectionists and make sure that you understand the kind of job they want. I remember once I mowed a lawn for a little old lady and she was about 90 years old. And when I went round to do the quote, she said she wasn't happy with the last guy, but she wasn't a complainer. So I asked her, what was the last guy doing wrong? And she said, well, he was missing this weed. It was nothing. I whacked her with the weed eater. It took me less than 5 seconds and she was happy and I did the job for a long time. So sometimes it's just one little thing. Now, the next one is the late payer. Now, the late payer, I mean, they could be a good customer, it could be a good job, could be a high paying job, but they're always late paying. So what I tend to do with those kind of jobs is it really needs to be dealt with as soon as you do the quote. So you turn up there and you do the quote and you say, this is how much it's going to cost. And then when they've accepted the quote, you tell them what your terms are. So tell them that you do the quote, you like to be paid within 24 hours. So you do the job, you send them a text, and then as soon as they get the text, they make payment. Now, if they miss that first payment, send them a text the next day and say, hey, did you get my bank account information? Right, is everything working okay? Because if they've just decided not to pay you, then the chances are they will pay you then. So if they don't pay you the second day, then send them another text on the third day. You can send them out texts every 2 days until they pay. I don't mind being annoying with people that don't pay because if they don't pay, they're not really worth having anyway. And honestly, a guy that's going to get annoyed with you because you're constantly sending the reminders about payments, it's probably a job not worth having anyway. So that's how we deal with late payers. We deal with them from the start. It's a bit hard if you've got a late payer to change them. It's, as I say, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But if you talk about it when you first take them on, then that could work quite well for you. Now, the last kind of customer is the customer that you're never going to be able to make them happy. They're always going to find something wrong with the job. I call them a nitpicker. And what they'll do is they'll look at the job and they'll say, okay, you're not doing this or you're not doing that. And the funny thing is, it always seems to be the houses that aren't so good. It always seems to be the rough areas where these people live. And you'll do the lawn and they're not happy with the job. And yet everything else is like super rough. I had a job like this where I just couldn't please her. And the house was terrible. There was junk everywhere. There was clothes falling off the line. There was food on the lawn. They'd collect shellfish and they'd open up the shellfish and they'd just leave a bucket of shellfish rotting for the next couple of weeks and then they'd kick it over onto the lawn. It was an absolute mess. And they'd bring home large screen TVs, unwrap them, and throw all the wrapping materials around the garden. The place was a disaster, and yet she fired me because she thought that I was leaving tracks when I was taking my mower from the driveway to the lawn, and there was no other way to do it. You just had to go through the carport. I wasn't leaving tracks, so you could hardly see them. Uh, I just couldn't please her. So I was quite happy with how job went. And these are jobs that really, when they do go, it's better if the customer fires you because then there's not so much animosity. One way that I have of doing that is to, rather than fire the customer, give them an extremely high price increase and then let them fire you. And then that way, less chances of getting a bad review. But anyway, that's how I deal with people like that. And do remember that if somebody's unhappy, don't argue with them. Just try and understand where they're coming from and try and understand what the issue is. See if you can get down to the real crux of the issue and listen to them, listen to what they're saying. Because a lot of the time it's not so much that you're doing something wrong, it's the fact that there's been a miscommunication. They've thought one thing and you've thought another. And if you can find out what that is, if you can rectify that problem, if you can make that customer happy, then I find the customers that made a complaint and then I made happy are the best customers I've ever had, to be honest. They become your advocates for you and they tell everybody about you. So they become absolutely brilliant customers. That's if you can turn them around. If you can't turn them around, don't be scared to say no and that you don't want to do the job because you don't have to do the job. That's the whole reason of being self-employed in the first place. So well, that's basically how we treat our difficult customers. I hope this has helped. And until I talk to you next time, get out there, mow lawns, have fun, and happy lawn mowing, people.